live and online. It's Sleepless with Steve and the Movie Book Club with your host, Steve Pulaski.
Back and better than ever. And oh my God, it's been a couple of weeks. Sleepless with Steve live on YouTube, 7 o'clock Central Time, 7:12 Central Time. A little tardy, a little messy, and so it goes. Steve Pulaski behind the microphone, joined by Dominic Guanzon. Absent today, Joe Viso, a little under the weather. Blessed so, not COVID. He's a little under the weather. Spoke to him for about 40 minutes yesterday on the phone. Had a nice conversation, but he's a little sickly. I gave him the night off. I told him, don't you worry about it, man. We'll get things covered over here after a 2-week absence, which I'll divulge in just a few. In the meantime, the inimitable Dominic Guanzon, so happy to join me. Dom, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing all right. Work gets busy around this time. We were just talking about that in the virtual green room. And August through Labor Day is particularly hell. Also, Chelsea's family, her mother, her father, and her sister all have birthdays in August. Her birthday's in November, but the rest of the family, immediate family, is in August. So they're all on separate weeks in August.
So what you're saying is you work a ton of hours and basically go broke all at the same time.
Hell yeah. Go for broke. Go broke, go for broke. That's how we do, but that's okay.
Yeah. It's the same thing for me, man. From like August 20th to like September 7th after Labor Day. These are busier than the holidays for me at the radio station, truthfully.
Yeah.
Like Christmas is steady, is busy. Mm-hmm. But this, man, because the other thing too with us is high school football starts.
Oh, I wasn't even thinking about that.
Prepping for that.
I was
on top of just a ton of. We have annual Labor Day, charity event that we do. There's just so much happening. There's like I said, the county fairs have returned. Everybody wants a piece of the radio station around this time. It's hectic, but it's good to be busy. It's good to be busy. I'm glad you're doing well.
That's true. Thank you.
We got a good show for you today, and also an explanation for the absence the last couple of weeks. I'm sorry I haven't updated probably as diligently as I should have. But we got a great show for you today. Just 2 real big topics. We have, we're talking Trey Parker and Matt Stone purchasing Casa Bonita. This was kind of a thought in the minds, in late July, early August. Dom's smiling. He can't wait to talk about this, as can I. We're going to end with that. Just a little brief story about that, because we both love South Park. Even Joe loves South Park too, but we're going to dive into that story because that's just one of those stranger than fiction type of stories that's just, kind of really cool to see. As such, too, we will be reviewing the Suicide Squad, couple weeks late, and it's really good, too, because nobody saw it either, so I think it's like number 10 at the box office this week as well. I watched it today, actually, so I'm kind of chomping at the bit to talk
in
about
the theaters
the movie as well. No, I watched it on HBO Max.
So did I.
Yeah, I watched it on HBO Max. I've been to the theater only really once in the last, month or so. This month, really, I saw Don't Breathe 2. I watched Paw Patrol the movie yesterday.
Yes, you did. I saw that review.
And that was a very fun movie. Like, I kind of wish I might do a solo review of that, because that was a very fun movie that I really liked and really lifted my spirits. Okay, that was good.
In the animated dog cinematic universe, you gotta let me know how it will compare to Clifford when Clifford comes out.
Well, I mean, the thing is, though, Clifford's not really animated, though.
The dog's full
animated. But yeah, it's CGI. Yeah. It's a live action hybrid, though. That's the only thing. I liked Paw Patrol. It actually had some similarities to like Hey Arnold the movie in a weird way. Like, it had a couple similarities to that, which I've always liked that movie. Nobody else really likes or remembers that movie, Hey Arnold the movie, but I always liked that. And the other thing is with Hey Arnold the movie, if you go back and watch it now, if you remember it, with like Shaq Empire, he wants to bulldoze the whole neighborhood and build this emporium. The damn thing is basically, because it came out in 04. I think.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Hey Arnold, the movie. The whole damn thing is essentially like one big warning about Trump. It's beautiful. Shek is Trump in the movie, and it's really cool. But Paw Patrol, the movie, though, is honestly really good. I'd recommend it if you have Paramount Plus and you have kids. Honestly, I think it's a really good movie. And this is coming from somebody I've never seen a frame of the television show, and I like this movie quite a bit for what it does thematically and what it does. Even structurally, it's got some really interesting things about it. And Don't Breathe 2. Don't Breathe 2, I was not a big fan of. I had a buddy make a great joke that I've been stealing, though. This is COVID times, it should have been called Don't Sneeze.
The sequel, Don't Sneeze. Is it Don't Breathe the number 2 or Don't Breathe, comma, TOO?
The number 2. It's the number 2.
Come on. You doing?
And this is one of those weird sequels. Like, I really liked the first movie. I don't know if you remember when it came out. I really liked the first movie. Really brutal, nasty movie that I would think that I'm kind of upset it beat. It beat A Quiet Place. It didn't do it as well as A Quiet Place, but it beat A Quiet Place in using sound as a menacing device in a mainstream horror movie where it was really predicated on long stretches of silence. And I don't think it got the credit it deserved. I don't think Fede Alvarez got the credit he deserved on that note for the original Don't Breathe, despite it being a success. This was really, I have a hard time blaming the filmmakers for this sequel, because this is the type of thing that like became a sleeper hit when it came out. And like the studio, Sony undoubtedly demanded a sequel be made, but like it wrapped up so nicely, the original Don't Breathe, that they really had to strain to figure out what the hell to do with this sequel. And the direction they took it is just not very good. But at the same time, I sit there and I've kind of felt contradictory watching it, because I'm like, this direction sucks. I don't like the way they did this. But I'm thinking like, well, what the hell else were they supposed to do? The movie was really great as a standalone thing. So I really don't begrudge the directors and writers behind it, because they really did their best.
Yeah.
With the material at hand. But I got reviews of those movies, Paw Patrol, the movie, and Don't Breathe 2. They're up at stevepulaski.com. But I'm going to start by saying this. Dom's got a little thing prepared. I'm not going to go super long-winded on this. I got a blog coming that's addressing all of this in much greater detail. And it's obviously still a hard thing to talk about. One of the reasons, though, I think the main reason, I'm not going to say one of, the main reason, it was off the last couple of weeks. My mother passed away on August 5th. And it's been, I mean, here's the thing, on an intellectual level, your parents are going to die. Your parents are going to die eventually. That. I wasn't prepared for her to go when I'm 25 and she was 58. However, at the end of the day, that's how my day started on August 5th, that Thursday. The first words I heard when I woke up at 4:30 in the morning to get ready for work, I answered the phone. The first words I heard were, "Mom's gone." Those were the first words I heard that day. And it has been a numbing, emotional experience since. I'm not going to say without its merits, because people have been coming out of the woodwork. Joe and Dominic in particular, really being stalwart in this time, on top of so many other friends who have done more than family. I'll be blunt. Coming out, supporting, bringing food, bringing beverages, stopping by the house, calling, just talking. And that's what it's about. And that's really, I'll say this, I have not felt alone in the last 3 weeks. I have not felt alone. There's not a day that's gone by that I felt alone. And that's probably why I can talk about this now and not really cry my eyes out at the end of the day. But it's been, I mean, I'm living the worst days of my life. People have asked me, like at work and stuff, just in general, people who know, they're like, "How are you doing?" And I always ask, do you want the diplomatic answer or do you want the honest answer? You know what I mean? Which answer are you looking for here? But I want to thank everybody who's, even fans who've actually reached out. Because I've gotten a couple messages. Quite honestly, people do watch this show. I've gotten a couple messages on Facebook and stuff from people, and just like Twitter, of like, "Hey, there's not been any Sleepless. Did you guys cancel it? Are you guys gone or something?" And I tell them, I'm honest. I'm like, you just see my profiles on social media, you'll know. So but people have been receptive and just really kind these last few days. It's been hard for me. It's been hard for my father. And I've kind of had to be the spokesperson for my father too, because he A, don't like talking on the phone, and he B, doesn't have social media. So I've kind of had to speak on behalf of him these last several weeks as well. But I'm stable. I'm okay. And just really needed, I took several days off of work. I really needed a couple weeks to just recalibrate. I've been drowning since the 5th of August, just in everything, in paperwork and obligations and responsibilities and a lack of sleep, and just everything. I mean, because this is the real thing about death that I've learned in the last 3 weeks. The person who passed is the one at peace. They're the fortunate one. It's the people who have to pick up the pieces and battle insurance agents and retirement plans and recalibrate finances. They're the ones who suffer. We're the ones who have to suffer. And it really hit me at my mother's service, at the funeral service, which again, Dominic, thank you so much for being a part of. And I talked to Joe yesterday. Thank you guys so much, not only for coming out of your way, but you spent a couple hours over there. So I really appreciate that deeply. I've told you that off camera, and I'll tell you this right now. But with the service and everything, just seeing everybody coming out and sharing stories, and don't get me wrong, there's a lot of tears. There's a lot of laughing though. There's a lot of laughing that day. And that's how mom would have wanted it. Truth be told, there's a lot of laughing. There's a lot of joking, a lot of eating too. Believe me, we were eating good, man. If you saw that break room over at the service, man, we had plenty of snacks. And that's what it was. I wanted it to be, I didn't really call it that. It was really just a service or a viewing, but I wanted it to be, I talked to my father, and I talked how I promote, put it out and send it to people. I said, I wanted this to be a celebration of life, because I love that phrase, celebration of life. There's plenty of time for tears, and Lord knows I got way more to produce. It's the little things that get me these days. It's the little things. It's the little memories and stuff, and whatnot. And I'm not going to go to the full extent. I got a blog coming that's going to detail a lot of it that I hope really does some justice to the legacy and the person that she was, the nurse that she was, the human that she was. I hope I can do that justice, in the written form. But, I love that phrase, celebration of life, because she did so much good for so many people. Dominic, you talked to her before at my house and stuff, at parties and stuff. You knew her. Joe knew her. She was an active presence in our lives and such. And that's the beautiful part. Even my buddies, I've never seen my 3 closest friends cry really until these last couple of weeks, because how much they were over at the house.
Mm-hmm.
She's making them food and such, and just them sharing stories with me privately that I won't get into, of just little things. So it's been an emotional roller coaster for me, to say the least. It's not even remotely done. We're at the tip of the iceberg, but I want to thank everybody who's been supportive and welcoming and patient with me too, because I'm slowly getting back into the rhythms of things. I've written a couple reviews, not much really since. I'm getting back into the flow of things, getting back into the flow of work. Obviously, Sleepless is going to continue, because there's last 2 quick points I'll bring up here. Is that number one, I keep trying to tell myself this. The last thing my mother would have wanted me to do, I mean, you give it a week and a half, 2 weeks or so, what you need. But the last thing my mother would have wanted me to do was lay around and cry. The last thing she wanted me to be doing right now is laying on the couch right now in the darkness, crying, for something I can't control, something I can't, fix. That's not what she would have wanted. The last thing she would have wanted me to do was not go to the movies, because of the fact that I was just too upset, or I just wanted to lay around, do nothing, and cry. She wouldn't have wanted that. She'd be honestly pretty disgusted by that. She would want me to carry on and do what I'm doing. And that keeps me going. That's the motivation that keeps me going. I mean, it sucks doing this show. I'll tell you right now, she never missed a show. She never missed a show for Sleepless with Steve.
Wow.
She watched everyone and would text me during, and I don't look at my phone during the show, but I'd come back to my phone after the show to maybe 2 text messages often about stuff we talked about. So it's hard not only losing somebody that loved you more than any single human being has or ever will, on this planet, but it's also hard to lose a number one fan like that. The number one fan who was with you. I always say on day zero, but it's that. And there's this other piece of advice I got from a total stranger. I'm not going to go into, how it happened or whatever, but a total stranger gave me this piece of advice. Not even a piece of advice. It's really just wisdom or clarity. It's not even advice, rather. We talked for about 10 minutes, 2 days after she died. And he was a real nice older gentleman, him and his wife, both beautiful people, crying, didn't even know me, and were crying for me. It was really, really something. Struck me. But I'm going to use our one F-bomb here, just an FYI. But he said, he told me, he goes, you are going to cry about your mother and missing her. He goes, don't cry for your mother. Don't cry for her. She's at peace. It's the rest of us who are fucked. And let me tell you, every call to life insurance, health insurance, retirement plans, let me tell you, that is facts. That is straight facts. The James Bond movie that's been in the works for 20 years that we're probably never going to see, No Time to Die. I tell people, I say, no time to grieve. No time to grieve. I mean, I'm taking time for myself and stuff, but there's just so much that goes into this. And this is a pain I keep telling my friends, because all my friends are so very fortunate to have their mothers. And I'm eminently jealous. I'm going to be jealous for the rest of my life that my friends got their moms and stuff. But I kept telling my friends at the service when they were just like, I can't believe we're here. I can't believe this is what it is. I keep telling them, let's hope we don't have to get back together. Let's hope we don't have to get together for this until we're 60 years old. We got gray hair. And we more than expected it. Like, let's hope. That's the only thing I can ask, man. It's an inevitability. It's an inevitability. You know it on an intellectual level, but when that day comes, it's something else. So the last thing I'll say, this goes for you too, Dom. This goes for you too. Last thing I'll say, call your folks. 15 minutes tonight, tomorrow, whatever it is. Call them. Talk to him 15 minutes. I don't know what the relationship you got with your mom, dad. I'm not talking to you directly, Dom, just general. I don't know what the relationship you got with your mom, dad, whatever it is. I don't know. I don't really care. 15 minutes. Talk about the weather. Talk about work. Talk about cleaning the house. I don't care. You talk to him for 15 minutes and you cherish it. Because the one aspect I do not have in this whole thing, honestly, is guilt. Maybe I have a little bit here and there, but I don't have guilt because I know for a fact that I talk to my mother every single day for the last 3 weeks for at least half an hour a day, even the day before she died. So I don't have guilt on that front. We didn't go weeks without talking to each other before this happened. So I don't have guilt in that. I'll take that with me. I'll call your folks. That's my lasting message. And this show is for you, Mom. Let's continue. Sleepless with Steve live on YouTube. Dom, thanks for giving me those few minutes to talk about that. And thanks for giving me all the love and support, too. It was really good to see you at the service, man. I know she would have appreciated it because she liked you and she asked about you and Chelsea until the very end. So thank you.
She's a beautiful woman.
Indeed.
She is a beautiful woman.
Indeed. Yeah, I got like half of that, I think. But anyway, we'll move forward like we should do at the end of the day. The Suicide Squad.
Oh boy.
Is it a sequel? Is it a remake? Is it a reboot? What is it? I think by definition, it's a standalone sequel, but you know what? It confuses me and I'm entrenched in the film scene. So I can only imagine the average consumer trying to figure out what exactly the hell this thing was. Or really is. James Gunn wrote and directed it. James Gunn, obviously famous for Guardians of the Galaxy. Never forget, he wrote the first 2 live-action Scooby-Doo movies directed by my boy, Raja Gosnell.
God, I forgot about that.
And he's an interesting guy, James Gunn. He's made a couple low-key movies that I like too. Super with Rainn Wilson. That's a weird one if you've seen that one. That is a weird, peculiar movie with Elliot Page is in that as well. And then you also have Slither, which is kind of a Tremors-esque horror movie, like a creature feature sort of weird thing. It pays homage to Tremors, that movie Slither, in the best possible way. It pays homage. If you remember Tremors, the character Earl Bass, played by Fred Ward in the first and second movie, the high school in Slither is named Earl Bass High School. And I am one of probably 4 people who caught that watching the movie.
Or less.
Or less. Don't set expectations too high. But now he's got the Suicide Squad. And I believe he's the first director now to helm a movie for Marvel and DC during the concurrent universes. I think he's got to be. I don't know who the hell else would be, unless I'm missing an obvious name over here. Who the hell else has directed both a Marvel and DC movie during the concurrent universes? So he's the only one on that one. But it shows you the power of James Gunn in terms of creative, power and just the way he's held in high regard. But let's make no mistake over here. You're not following up Suicide Squad, David Ayer's Suicide Squad from 2016. You're not following up the Goodfellas of superhero movies. Let's just say that. You're not following up a piece of high art. What's next is I don't know. What's next? Is Mark Webb going to helm the reboot of pick up the pieces of Josh Trank's Fantastic Four?
I would love to see someone try.
That's a poisoned property. Fantastic Four.
God, that's three times over.
And they still can't get it. But anyway, though, let's talk about the Suicide Squad, now in theaters and streaming on HBO Max until September 5th, I believe is what my app told me today. I'm going to start by saying this. First things first, I was dismayed initially with the trailers and everything. Because let me tell you, one of the things I loved about David Ayer's Suicide Squad, there's a couple things. I honestly did not hate that movie. I really didn't. I thought
I remember you being like lukewarm on it, but not like, internet.
Hard. No, I wasn't piling on. I wasn't piling on by any means. But there's a couple things that I didn't truly enjoy. One of which was Croc in the original Suicide Squad movie. I liked Croc a lot. I liked that character. I thought he was a fun presence. Let me tell you though, man, I was kind of upset when he wasn't in this. Let me tell you about the OG Mr. King Shark, though. That's the dude right there. That's the dude. I love that dude. And the two reasons I love him. Number one, he's funny as hell. Number two, that I love about King Shark, and I just have to get this out of here because if I wrote a written review, which I don't think I'm going to write a written review of this movie, I think I'm going to let this suffice. I would devote a paragraph to King Shark because I'll tell you right now, the other thing I loved about King Shark too is they didn't try to make him cute and cuddly like Baby Yoda. Like Baby Groot. They didn't try to make him cute and cuddly. They just made him who he was. They just made him like, he's got like a dad bod. He's got like a weird sort of, like wobble and walk. He's kind of prickly.
He's a shark.
Me some King Shark. I love me some King Shark. That dude was funny as hell. He's got a really emotional moment in an aquarium that I really liked.
He's a king, but he's an aged king, middle-aged King Shark. Which is how he just lumbers about. Still got the mass. Honestly, kind of leaning into the what's his name? He was in Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow as the not Captain America.
David Harbour?
Yeah. He's got like that built dad bod of like David Harbour, but a shark. But it's funny. Out of all of them, that's the one that you gravitate to the most.
Dude, I loved King Shark, man. When he drops his F-bomb, I rewound that like 3 times. Shout out HBO Max. And then, like I said, that scene in the aquarium with the fish, which I won't ruin. And it kind of ends a little poorly for him at the end of the day. But like that moment, that serene moment when he comes face to face with those fish. I like King Shark, man. I really did. I thought he was fun. But there's more to like about this movie than just King Shark. And we shall discuss that. I've been talking quite a bit here. Dom, I'll throw it over to you.
Yeah, let me just say before we take our Zoom-sponsored break, which is now imposing on us with only 2 participants. I don't know if you saw that, Steve.
Yes, I do. I do see that.
Regardless, I was actually surprised by this. I had like subterranean expectations going into this. I actually never saw the original. That the other Suicide Squad, the B-list Suicide Squad.
The David Ayer, Will Smith Suicide Squad.
Yes, exactly. So, I can't really shit on it for having not seen it. That's something I adhere to where it's like, hey, if I haven't seen it, I can't shit on it, even though a lot of people have. But Steve, you were lukewarm on it. So, it's whatever. I will say one thing that I did not like from the original Suicide Squad, just one thing, is that I did not like its aesthetic, at least in the trailers. The movie poster was horrible. The it was like super ugly and whatever. It was like really try hard with what they did with the Joker. I know it's really easy to shit on that Joker with 30 seconds to 30 seconds to heroin addict Joker, but it's just a really bad aesthetic, and I was not particularly attracted to what I was seeing. This one though, it felt a lot more. It's gonna sound weird coming from one with a freaking talking, walking shark and a giant starfish, but it's actually kind of felt more grounded. Like John Cena's stupid ass Boy Scout look in this movie, I love so much. Just on a comedic level, I'm gonna try to flash it on the screen here now. It looks so freaking dumb, but like so good. It's so funny. That's so many.
You know what the best way I can describe, for somebody who hasn't seen the Suicide Squad, John Cena's Peacemaker character.
Peacemaker, yeah.
Peacemaker. You know what I call it? You know what I would say the best way to describe him is Captain America.
Yeah.
That's what I think is the best way to describe him is Captain America.
Dude, that's pretty bang on, and I like it. There's a dude walking around with polka dots all over his body. Somehow it worked. Honestly, it was kind of giving me some vibes of like the HBO's Watchmen from 2019, where it's
we're gonna go there. Okay.
Yeah, just in aesthetics only, because that series is quite frankly the greatest.
No, I'm not judging. That's an interesting comp.
Let me just say, I think Watchmen is the greatest piece of superhero media in this millennium, possibly quite ever, to be honest with you. But that's another conversation entirely. But I just like how there was like a groundedness and like a self-acknowledgement in aesthetic alone with how stupid all these people look. Because when they're in a normal jungle against normal looking soldiers, it's like, what is this dude going around with? Why is Michael Rooker like have this long ass white spaghetti stringy hair? Like that looks so dumb, and like everyone here looks really really dumb, and it's funny. Like it's not even like that looks like try hard and stupid like the Joker was, but it actually blended really well. And the other thing that really stood out to me, that was like one thing that really stood out to me. The other thing was the first 15 minutes. I actually really fell in love with this first 15 minutes of this movie. And the rest of the movie failed to meet those expectations, which, hey, you know what? Whatever. We'll take what we can get. The fact that I got anything out of this film is good. So I'll take it for what it is. So it surprised me on a good, decent level. But man, that opening, not the opening scene, but the first action sequence is you kind of see it coming, particularly if you look at the marketing materials and then you see who's in that scene. But the whole shtick with the Suicide Squad and any film featuring them specifically is that someone's gonna die. Like, hey, not everyone here is gonna make it out all happy and hunky dory. But you know that. And you Steve, tell me, you kind of know who was going to die and who was going to live with some gray, with some like, that could be a toss up, but there wasn't. Did you really feel a tension with some of these characters?
No, who died? I wasn't shocked by any of the deaths. I'm not going to lie though. And I probably should have known this. I just only watched the first trailer for this. So I'm not going to lie. That opening sequence kind of caught me a little off guard. I was thinking, is this how they're going to introduce him? Because this movie, the one thing it does, there's 2 points I want to make for the Zoom sponsored intermission. The 2 things that this movie does that are kind of commendable in a way. The number one thing is it completely forgoes the world building aspect, which the original Suicide Squad did almost to a fault. Yes. And I kind of liked it for this up until a point where they sat down and had Viola Davis's character sit down, honestly, with each member of the Suicide Squad, detail their backstory. And that was like 40 minutes before we actually got into what we paid to see. And it was pretty good just on it. It was like 30, 40 minutes by my memory. Memory's fungible, but I remember it being like a first act and then some of backstory. And it was interesting to a degree, but there was a certain point that it was like, all right, come on. Like, you know what I mean? Put the gas on it here. James Gunn really has no interest in world building here, which I find kind of commendable after so many movies, so many superhero movies in particular, that set us up for the sequel. That's what they're trying to get you out for the sequel, for what you want to see, so they could do the origin story for the first one, where this movie just kind of just drops you right in the middle of everything. And it's like, you'll figure it out. You know what you're getting into. And I kind of like that because it bestows a little responsibility on the audience to kind of acclimate into the environment. I don't need characters to grab my hand and walk me through the whole inner workings, especially now. It'd be different if this was like the first DC movie, the first movie in the DC cinematic universe. Jesus Christ, we're 25 Marvel movies in and what, like 8 or 9 DC movies in? Like, come on. You know what I mean? We're at the point now where it's like, we kind of know this formula. The other thing I'll quickly mention before we take the Zoom sponsored intermission, the other thing I liked about this is that James Gunn shows his roots in this movie, because this movie has an unmistakable feel of a trauma movie. In a lot of ways, if you know what Trauma is a company that specializes in horror films and low budget horror films. James Gunn actually got his start. He worked on one of Trauma's most famous movies. It's called Terror Firmer. And Trauma movies are notorious for being goofy, silly, bloody, disgusting. They made Poultrygeist. They made Toxic Avenger. They made so many different weird movies. Cannibal the Musical. They made that one as well, which I believe, don't quote me, but I think Trey Parker and Matt Stone actually worked on, was Cannonball the Musical. And that was a Trauma movie way back in the day, way back like 4 Seats in the Cadillac. I'll expound a little bit more on that with the Trauma connection after the Zoom sponsored intermission. Again, it's Sleepless with Steve. We got to take our very quick intermission, but we'll be back in just about a minute or so with more talk about Suicide Squad. Keep it locked in. This is, I guess you could say, the return of Sleepless with Steve after a 2-week hiatus. Right now, live on YouTube. Be back in a couple minutes on Sleepless with Steve. Back and better than ever, Sleepless with Steve, live on YouTube, the return of Sleepless with Steve after a 2-week hiatus. But back to the Trauma connection, too. Again, I don't want to go too long-winded on this, but James Gunn, though, like I said, he worked on Terror Firmer, which is one of Trauma's most popular movies. Trauma has made, I would go as far as to say, hundreds of movies over the last couple of years. If you haven't heard of them, Dom, I don't know if you know them. If you haven't heard of them, I would look into them. I know you're not a big horror movie guy, but they're not. At least interesting. And I think there's the Walk of Fame, you know, but I always said, like, and I'm a big football fan, there's no like filmmaker Hall of Fame. There's no like movie Hall of Fame where it's not like, you know, like you think about people who would get like a gold jacket at the end of their career, you know, like a lifetime achievement, like Martin Scorsese.
I don't know. Like you're saying, there's not that?
There's nothing. I think there's no like one concrete agency that does, you know what I mean? Where it's like, I know there's the Academy and everything like that, obviously, but it's not like it's not like the NFL has the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Okay.
You know, there's not like the one quintessential industry. There's other benchmarks, but there's not something like that. The reason I bring that up, though, is I don't think you can tell the history. If you were to write a 10,000 page book on the history of cinema, particularly American cinema. I don't think you could tell the story of American cinema without a chapter on trauma. I really don't. I think trauma is that indispensable, especially to horror. I think trauma is that indispensable to the ethos of independent filmmaking. Lloyd Kaufman, the founder and CEO of Trauma, makes a cameo appearance in the Suicide Squad. Oh. He is seen very briefly when they're going into, I think it's a nightclub. It's like about an hour into the movie. He's elbowed out of the way by Idris Elba.
Oh, okay.
By Bloodsport. He's elbowed out of the way in the opening. He's a blinky. I had to rewind it to make sure it was him.
Trauma, 45 years of disrupting media, according to their website.
Lloyd Kaufman is an interesting fella too. Funny guy. I've always wanted to meet him at a convention and stuff and just pick his brain because trauma is a fascinating thing. And the reason I say the Suicide Squad has a connection to it, not only did James Gunn get his start with trauma, but you've kind of detected like a trauma influence throughout his career. It's bloody, it's gory. There's a reliance, maybe not so much here, but just in the body horror and the practical effects. I mean, you see a guy's top get sliced off his head. I'm sitting there watching this movie today thinking, that's trauma. That's trauma right there. That's like the disgusting, no holds barred, like where other movies where mainstream horror cuts away from the carnage, trauma will show you it, sometimes in disgusting, gag-inducing detail. And that's what makes them special, I think, is that they give you what you want. If you're a horror movie fan like me, you love seeing that stuff, and you love seeing it done well. So I'm happy that James Gunn, as big as he is, as popular as he is, he knows his roots and he digs his roots. And I respect him for that because there's a real trauma influence. Even the Project Starfish, which I won't get away, that is something that I could see out of a Toxic Avenger movie right there. That whole sequence and that whole just how it comes to be. This is essentially in many ways a 9-figure budget trauma movie. And I love that. And that's probably the thing I love the most about that. Number 2 would be King Shark. But number 1 would be the trauma influence that bleeds from this movie.
Yeah, that actually makes, I'm not familiar with Trauma's work directly, but I'm not, if you state that connection, Steve, I've probably felt their influence through some degree. I like the fact that you mentioned that, yeah, when that dude gets his head sliced open very cleanly and you see the brain and all that stuff, I mean, it's probably influenced, I don't know, would you say it influenced Tarantino's very indie grounded,
undoubtedly
violence?
Undoubtedly. I mean,
that's the more mainstream connection where that's how people know, like,
sure.
Oh, yeah, violence, Tarantino and all the exploding.
Sure. I mean, even beyond the Toxic Avengers got to be their most famous property, but they also have a Class of Nukem High. And again, I did look up and confirm myself. This was the early 90s, but Trey Parker and Matt Stone, they have not done many films out of South Park, but they did do Cannibal the Musical.
I was about to say, what else have they done? Cannibal the Musical.
That is a trauma movie.
Really?
That is a trauma movie.
There you go. That makes, okay, sorry. The one gag I always love from Cannibal the Musical, I need to actually rewatch it, but I was so young. I probably a whole new movie for me now that I'm older and understand things.
Probably. I saw it young too.
But I did understand this joke, and we'll talk about Suicide Squad shortly, I promise. But the one joke from Cannibal the Musical is when the dude is tap dancing, but the snow is there because they're in the snow, right? It like goes up to his knees. So you hear the tapping of the tap dance, but he's just like doing this and you don't see his legs. And I'm like, that's hilarious. that's such a silly but simple and almost genius gag.
I think that was Trey and Matt's first feature. I think it was because Orgasmo came afterwards.
Orgasmo. I never saw that.
And they've only done that and South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, and Team America. Those are, I think, the only and Basketball, but they didn't direct that, I don't believe. So they've only done a handful of movies, live action movies, especially. And Cannibal the Musical is one of them. But anyway, back to Suicide Squad, though. I wanted to make sure I'd state that trauma influence because it bleeds from this movie, and I'm glad it does. Because the other thing, and I promise, Dom, I'll let you chime in over here. You could tell I haven't done this show in 2 weeks. The other thing that I liked about Suicide Squad, this one a lot too, is that, this honestly feels like a movie with a vision. Good or bad? flawed or flawless, whatever you want to consider it, this movie has a vision. I don't always love it. I didn't love this movie by any means. I kind of got a little tired of it in some parts and a little fatigued by it, but that's also me with James Gunn in general. In some ways, I also think that like the R rating doesn't always help James Gunn in so many ways. I think that Guardians both being PG-13 grounded him in sort of a way where this movie starts to teeter totter. It's not so much the gore. I can live with the gore. You know, I've actually watching Bloodless Marvel much of my life. I kind of welcome gore.
Is it just gratuitous?
The thing with James Gunn that you come to expect, and if you watch a movie like Super with Rainn Wilson, you come to expect this too. I kind of get tired of sort of the nihilistic browbeating in a way, and sort of like the darkness and sort of the jokes and stuff like that. I kind of get a little beaten over with that in some respects. But at the same time, though, this movie has a vision. And the problem with the original Suicide Squad, the rotten core of it that soured even some of the more positive aspects of the movie, which I think people are too quick to dismiss, the original David Ayers, is that even David Ayers says himself, he's come out and said this, I saw it. He goes, I've seen it a couple times. He goes, this was not the movie we set out to make. He goes, there's a lot of bickering creative decisions. The movie was changed in editing. He's like, this was not the movie me and the cast were making. He's like, when I saw it, I was kind of dumbfounded by that. We weren't making this type of a movie, or at least this movie that was this choppy. And after that brouhaha, it's like with this one, it feels self-contained. It honestly kind of feels like they don't even care if they get a sequel, which is good because they're not, with the way this movie's been performing. But it feels like a man's vision. And that's what I respect the most about this iteration of Suicide Squad.
Yeah, I'm absolutely with that. It's kind of sad that the bar is there for this franchise.
Right.
It just really blows my mind, because when did Suicide Squad come out?
2016.
2016. So just 5 years later, and
5 years ago, August 2016. Yeah.
Wow. And even when that movie came out, the fatigue was really like settled in for superhero movies, and now it's 2021, and it's like reeking of all that. Marvel is like trying to break into like TV just to kick things up again. So yeah, I'm very glad that I'm happy that the Suicide Squad was able to go out on a bang and on terms that, if you love this property, I would hope you would love this movie and you can find peace with it. Because I don't really care. I'm kind of tired of Harley Quinn, to be honest with you, which sucks because Margot Robbie's awesome as Harley Quinn. And she her whole character, her whole shtick of being a victim of Joker's abuse and all that stuff. I actually haven't watched Birds of Prey, but I was just so tired of her in general. And it didn't help that just culturally we were just all obsessed over Harley Quinn, like on a really heightened level after Suicide Squad came out. But like, it's fine there. So I'll leave it. Culturally, I think Suicide Squad should leave it there as it is. It won't get a sequel, but at least they went out with a really good bang that feels like Suicide Squad. So I'm with you there. As for the movie itself, yeah, it meanders. It falls into a lot of superhero shit that you expect. A lot of like, it's like elongated. You're about this good guy's about to get executed, and someone's going to save their ass at the very last second while a gun's being pointed at him. No tension there whatsoever. As we talked about earlier, you kind of know who's going to live. And a lot of people that are going to die. And then some characters are in between. It's like, they might live, they might die. It doesn't really matter. So the novelty of it was kind of taken away. If this was the movie we got in 2016, it'd be a little more novel and we'd have fun with it. But by now, I think, just the fatigue of having a second Suicide Squad of pretty much just like a second go around. It's like, can we just get it right the first time, please? But whatever. Honestly, I enjoyed the hell out of the monster. It was a giant ass monster. Again, I've I've been watching Watchmen, the HBO series. I'm just gonna keep pushing that out there, as well as the Harley Quinn animated show, starring Penny from Bazinga, freaking
Big Bang.
Big Bang Theory. The Penny from there, main girl from Big Bang Theory. I forget her name. Kaylee Kuko. How could I forget a name like that?
Oh, Kaylee Kuko. Okay.
Yeah.
I
Kaylee
can't
Kuko.
stand that program, so
Oh yeah, I mean,
I've
can't
made
either.
a conscious effort to avoid Big Bang Theory.
Yeah,
for
well, it sucks
years.
because I'm sure a lot of the actors are great, like Kaylee Kuko, who
Oh,
does
I
a
love
great,
Melissa Rauch, who's in it.
yeah, Kaylee does a great job as Harley Quinn in that animated series, and I'm loving that. That's like perfect Adult Swim, like late night, like that actually like brought me back. I was like, God damn, it's like I'm watching not Brack Show, but something stupid like that. Stupid and fun and somehow profound at the same time. I don't know. But yeah, it's a good popcorn flick. I know that's kind of cliche for a reviewer to say, but that's kind of where we're at. I am thankful for the few twists this movie was able to give us, and overall it's like, all right, cool, we're done with this. I'm done with Suicide Squad forever. I don't know if we even need to pick up Harley Quinn ever again. I don't know, Steve, where are you at from there?
Yeah, I mean, going forward too, like I liked a lot of the casting. I mean, Viola Davis is the only returning, I think, non-Suicide Squad member in this movie. Margot Robbie obviously returns with this thing as well. And then you get like, new additions like John Cena and Idris Elba. I thought Idris Elba did very well. I thought Idris Elba, as far as performance is concerned, I think he probably gives the best performance.
He also has like the most to work with because he has like he has the most emotional weight.
Sure, he does. But I thought that like even the deadpan comedy, he killed. He crushed it. I thought that was very cool to see with him, to assume that role and give him a little bit more diversity on that. But yeah, like you hit the nail on the head. A lot of my points too. Like it really doesn't reinvent the wheel so much as it really just, I don't want to say it seems the status quo, but at the same time, like it doesn't go too crazy with like the self-referential things. I kind of like how it incorporates sort of the chapter little things into the scenery in a way. But you know what, as far as like this movie goes, about halfway through it, you know what movie I thought of, and we reviewed it on Sleepless. Think about this for a second. Big budget movie helmed by a director with and a writer with legions of fans, who gets this creative playground, a lot of money, a big cast, a lot of special effects, a lot of explosions, and a lot of set pieces, and he gets 2-hour runway. This movie is honestly not too much different from Army of the Dead. It's not much different.
Yeah, okay. I was thinking like, why I'm going to Watchmen, but there's another movie. I guess it goes to show how forgettable that movie was for me. But yeah, no, that's bang on. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, it's Army of the Dead in a lot of ways, and I'd take Gunn style over Snyder style most days. Even though I'm not really in love with either, I'm more in like with Gunn, and I have my strong criticisms of Snyder. But it's really kind of like I'm in the same space as Army of the Dead here, where it's like, and I liked Army of the Dead. I know I liked it more than you. I liked Army of the Dead quite a bit. It was really the length and the abundance of characters that wore on me with that movie. But with this movie too, it's like I respect the vision. It made me laugh. It made me wince, and it gives you what you want at the end of the day. And that's why I think ultimately I give this positive review, Suicide Squad, because we're not going to get a sequel to this, just given that this movie has really sucked at the box office. But like, at least, it'll get rebooted in 10 years, and it'll be an 8-episode, Disney Plus, Paramount Plus, Cock Plus, whatever series they're going to put it on. But like, it's at the same time though, we're going to have one pretty good Suicide Squad movie. And at the end of the day, I'll take that. and I give it 3 out of 4 stars. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it more than the original. Granted, that's not a high bar to set, but I think James Gunn came with a vision. He came with an idea. He didn't want to spoon feed audiences with another origin story. He assembled an electric cast of fun characters to spend time with. Each one, I feel like, even towards like Ratcatcher and Polka Dot Man and everything, each one of them gets sort of their own little moment to shine and gets at least some backstory. So it feels like there's a little bit of weight to their characters. I did like it, and I love the trauma influence that's evident in this movie from the very beginning. And I love my boy King Shark. I might even have to go out and buy a Funko Pop of my dude for King Shark, because that guy's legit. I'd watch a spin-off of that guy. I was upset going into this because I was like, I liked Croc in the original, and Croc, I think, did even less than King Shark in this movie. So I was not disappointed by that. Shout out King Shark, man. I got to look if there's like comics of him or something. I doubt it, but I got to look and see if there's like a comic with him or something. I got to get more King Shark in my life. Like how the culture is obsessed with Baby Yoda. That's your boy over here for King Shark. I'm a stand for him though. 3 out of 4 stars for Suicide Squad. Dominic, send us home on the new James Gunn movie.
Look, man, it's at least satisfying, years from now when all YouTubers do their retrospective on this weird event that there were 2 Suicide Squad movies, basically one a reboot of the other. It's like this weird second chance that it's a cloud hanging if you're like in the know of, just barely even in the know about how the industry and superhero culture, whatever. Sadly, I am to a degree, but I don't want to be. But anyway, It's just this weird phenomenon. It's a cloud hanging over this whole franchise, and it's going to be laid to rest after this. That's fine. They got their second chance, and it works. It really does work. It is serviceable. It is good. It got a chuckle out of me. I'm not joking when I say that first action sequence did legitimately kill me. Nathan Fillion has the most useless power, and it killed me. And like what how they end that sequence is perfect. The campy zoom in, the campy music, and all that stuff. What they do there, you can just watch. It's for free on HBO Max if you have the subscription, of course. Just watch it for those first half hour. If you don't get sucked in, just whatever. But just watch that first one and you'll be good. And yeah, dude. Look, Harley Quinn, Margot Robbie's perfect as Harley Quinn. Viola Davis is perfect as Amanda Waller. If you can't get Vin Diesel to voice your barely talking creature, get Sylvester Stallone to do it as King Shark, and it's just as effective. It works. So much of this works, and yeah, it falls back into a lot of superhero stuff, a lot of predictability. Not a lot of tension, to be honest with you, because they kind of blow the tension in the first 15 minutes, but I'm actually okay with that because it made me laugh. So yeah, 2.5 out of 4 stars for me. Let's move on. Let's move on from there in terms of this franchise.
In 3 years, I want Suicide Squad presents King Shark.
You know what? Actually, I looked on the Wikipedia page. They're making a Peacemaker TV show.
Yes, they are. That I knew. They are making a Peacemaker TV show. It's not a King Shark TV show, but I might cop me a shirt. I might come on Sleepless next week with a shirt. Just an FYI.
Gotcha.
But we'll move forward. Great review, Dom. Great review. Glad to be back in this setting after
Absolutely.
2 weeks. The longest I've went without doing Sleepless, really, since it was rebooted. We'll be quick with this topic, though. We're already bleeding a little bit into Sleepless OT. I mean, I guess not. We did start, a couple minutes late, but Trey Parker, Matt Stone in the news. They have struck a deal to buy Casa Bonita, the restaurant that was featured heavily in, I think it was a season 7 episode, I want to say.
I looked it up. It's 2003 is when that episode aired.
Okay. Because that is honestly, if I made a list of my top 10 favorite South Park episodes, I would put that on there. That's one of the South Park episodes I have watched the most.
According to, I think
Parker.
According to Parker, he said that's one of his top 10s as well.
Yeah, that's a great episode. The way it builds and just the lengths that Cartman goes to Butters' or to go to the birthday party. It's Kyle's birthday party.
Yeah.
in the movie. That's a great episode, man. Just the way it ends. And it ends with Cartman having learned nothing. Like, it's just, I really love that episode through and through. And I liked what Parker said about purchasing this. The financial details of purchasing the restaurant were not disclosed, but he said that it was a fair price. And he said, really, it just boils down to this. It just feels natural. It feels like they should own Casa Bonita and kind of make it, I hope it's not so much a South Park museum as much as it is, there's going to be South Park memorabilia, and I would like to see that. But I hope it's also kind of true to the restaurant itself, and the detail and the experience that made them want to make the episode in the first place. That's what I can hope for. And before I throw it over to you, Dom, I'll just say this. Trey Parker and Matt Stone, they were not eating ramen noodles before this deal. They were not eating ramen noodles, cup of noodles, whatever the hell. But they are wealthy men even now. They have struck a 6-year, $935 million pact with Viacom CBS. And we didn't talk about this because we weren't on the air the last couple of weeks. But we definitely would have talked about this in time. And this maybe will be a conversation for another day. And I feel like it's being underreported. They've got a deal now for 14 movies with Paramount Plus. 14 movies, South Park movies. Let me count how many they made. Let me count how many they've made of South Park movies. You got 3, carry the 2, 1 South Park movie since the show has been on since 97. We've got 1 South Park movie. Don't give me Imagination Land. That's 3 separate episodes. Don't give me the Coon trilogy. That's 3 separate episodes. Don't give me that. But so that's kind of surprising in and of itself. But these are very wealthy men. They just bought themselves a restaurant.
Do you know how much content they have? It is 2021, Steve. Have you looked outside? They got so much shit to write about now. It's not like they were counterculture before in like the mid 2000s, like during the Iraq War, where they were like the edgy. I mean, they're still edgy now, but like it was particularly potent. Where it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna show Osama bin Laden's dick, and it's super tiny, and we're gonna make fun of all this stuff. We're gonna make fun of liberals too, and they're still doing that. Don't get me wrong, but it's like. Now it's like they're hardworking. Don't get me wrong, but it's almost like it's like coasting, man. It's like layups from here on out. Obviously, again, I want to emphasize it's still hard to make these things. I always say watch the mini documentary, 6 Days to Air. That's an awesome behind the scenes.
Underrated.
It is fascinating because if they lose one day, that episode is not being released. That's how tight it is. However, again, yeah, dude, it's like they're making video games. They're buying like restaurants now. It's all good, man. They can do a Cannibal the Musical remake or just put it to Broadway now if they wanted. The world has been their oyster. Now it is their freaking playground. And you know what? I'm here for it because I've mentioned this before, and we're straying from the topic, but I mentioned this before. It's like there was a certain level of, honestly, not just South Park, but just Parker and Stone, where it's like, yeah, I get it. Yeah, you're all you hate. What's the quote? I always butcher it. It's like
we hate conservatives, but we really hate liberals.
We really hate liberals. And I understand. There's a lot of stupid shit in Hollywood, a lot of stupid shit with the neoliberal Democratic establishment that we absolutely should tear into. But like we got freaking Nazis on the street, man. And so it's like. I'm looking forward to them finally dishing out. And you know what? After that first the pandemic special, not pandemic special, it was the pandemic. It was the one where they showed the cop abuse after.
Yes.
That sequence, like, okay, this is what we came here to see. We're good. We got it. So it's like, honestly, this is like, for me personally, this is like a breath of fresh air, and I'm down to watch every single one of those specials. I don't know about you, maybe it'd be too much.
Same.
But I would be down to review them.
Same. I'll be there for him.
I'll watch them. And it's like a second wave or second generation of this stuff. They've just been part of the American life since the 90s, and it is astounding how they have gone. Honestly, like. Can you think of something else that has gone on for this long with this level of quality? I can't really think of much.
Arthur.
Okay. I relent. I relent. Anything else? I can't.
No, I know, I understand. No, because like let's be real here. I'm kind of saying that half facetiously to some degree, but no, South Park. Like the thing that makes South Park, relevant is that, and I always go back, like when I watch the episodes, and we talked about this with the pandemic and vaccination
Yeah.
special. Is that I always go back to the original episodes because I love the episodes that center around the kids because those episodes age very well. Maybe you get a celebrity cameo that didn't really age very well, like what the hell, Barbara Streisand or something like that, or Al Gore. But like most of the time, the original episodes where they focus on the kids, I always love those. The newer episodes, they're very good on their own right, but I feel like they age themselves faster.
Yes.
Just given the rapid fire climate and everything. But having said that seeing that sort of balls to the wall comedy, that anarchic spirit of like, we'll bash liberals just as quickly as we'll bash conservatives and this, that, and the other. This sort of like centrism of South Park in a way, where it's like the most offensive thing in South Park, in the world of South Park, is giving a shit or being passionate about something. That is whatever side you're on, that is the most offensive thing in the world of South Park, is giving a damn and putting forth effort.
And they directly address that in a very poignant episode where it features prominently the Stevie Nicks / Fleetwood Mac song Landslide. It's where Stan just hears everything as shit and he just realizes he's battling depression and cynicism and all that stuff. And it also features Randy. He gets confused between the two. I'm just describing the episode now, but the sequence with him and Steamy Nicks, he's Steamy Ray Vaughn and he's singing with Steamy. So good. Anyway, but yeah, dude, I'm
they
here
still
for
resonate. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, getting back to Casa Bonita, the Casa Bonita story itself, I'm looking at some of these. I have looked up some of these pictures, and it's like, damn, they kind of nailed it for the show. As simple as the animation is, but like, no, that's what it is. It is a Treasure Island / Latino themed / Treasure Island kind of thing. Chuck E. Cheese kind of thing. And it's kind of ridiculous in and of itself. I'm kind of 50-50. So I've never been to a Casa Bonita. I've been to Dave & Buster's and Chuck E. Cheese. That's as close as I've been. Something else I feel like closer to, but regardless, I think I'm kind of 50-50 on if they make it a South Park land or not. Not like rip it out entirely, but if they just throw in a bunch of South Park shit on there, like, I don't know. Would you like a South Park night where some dude
sure,
Cartman?
what I would like, and I think I wouldn't be against that. And I mean, I've never even been to the damn restaurant, so I don't really have any connection to it. But like looking up pictures, I hope they keep the ethos of the restaurant. I'd like to see them put South Park photos and stills and artwork around and whatnot. I think you have to do that. I really do. I just hope it doesn't become South Park Museum, where it's all South Park and none of the restaurant. I want the appeal of the restaurant intact at the end of the day. That's all I ask.
Again, never been to Casa Bonita. They need to do the Cartman run, which is just...
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Oh, they do it?
No, I was just going to say they need to do that.
Yes, they need to do it, where they just recreate the final sequence of Cartman going through all the shit.
And honestly, then end with the dive.
End with the dive, which is a total liability, but end with the dive, and then you just float on your back, and you just say the legendary words, totally. And it's like... Totally. That is such a you said it earlier, that's such a quintessential Cartman episode. It's pretty much a template for, 30% of every South Park episode, which is just... Cartman is just increasingly doing a horrid shit to someone, usually Butters, and then it all comes collapsing, and he doesn't learn a goddamn thing. And I'm sorry, I'm just replaying the episode in my head now. I need to just sit down and watch it on HBO Max.
Episode, it is on HBO Max because I watched it last summer. I think I was telling you guys and talking on the show. I watched probably 50 or 60 episodes of South Park. Just random ones that I liked or ones I hadn't seen in so many years. And Casa Bonita was one I think I watched twice. because I loved it that much. I love the scenes in the bomb shelter with Butters. I love the scene when he's trying to convince the garbage, the woman who works at the waste management place to repopulate the earth with them. I love those moments. That's one of my top 10 favorite South Park episodes. I've always liked that one. Just for how it captures the ethos of the show. And again, why do I like that episode? It's focused on the characters. It's focused on the plot. It doesn't bring in celebrities and current events and stuff. Like it drops you into the world and it drops you into the characters. And I like it. And I like to me and my buddies have talked about Denver being a destination for a Broncos game because we want to try and see as many NFL games as we can, different stadiums. We want to go to Mile High Stadium and stuff. And we were talking about, they're like, when they finally take it over and open, and hopefully COVID's a thing of the past, or at least, as eradicated as it'll possibly get. We were talking about maybe 2023, taking a trip out to Denver. And they're like, I don't care if it's a 2.5-hour drive. We got to go to Casa Bonita.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure a lot of South Park fans have already made pilgrimages there, which I would be very curious to see what the culture of like Casa Bonita is, and like if they have a relationship with that prior to the acquisition. But regardless, it's good to see, I guess, a local business being saved. I mean, it's got to be like surreal too. Like imagine being this multi-millionaire, and it's like you're just like a comedy writer who just makes silly songs, Tony Award-winning silly songs, but silly songs. And it's like, yeah, I'm going to buy like basically a theme park restaurant. And it's just like, what? Okay, cool.
For the lulz.
Yeah, pretty much for the lulz. And apparently they're going into weed now. They're like straight up making integrity. So again, like I said, they're not coasting, but they're just having fun now, and it's kind of harmless and kind of helpful. So I'm down.
Dom, they signed a 6-year, $935 million deal, and they're already swimming. They're already filthy rich. You know what they got now? I'll use 2 in one show. I got to make up for lost time. They got the best thing you can ask for in America. They got fuck you money.
Yes,
that's what they got. They go, Casa Bonita's for sale. Fuck you. I'll buy it. They do. They got that kind of money now. They're already rich. They don't need to work. They could quit South Park and they could coast the rest of their lives. They're deep. You know what I mean? They're still fairly relatively young dudes, but they got that new paycheck, dude. They're going to do something with it. They got a house. They probably got 3-4 cars each for them and their wives. They've got beautiful offices. They've got probably Stingray bed sheets. You know what I mean? Like that's a real thing. Drake has them. They have Stingray bed sheets and whatnot. They have chandeliers. They got a walk-in closet full of all the gear you could want. They got all the materials you want. Now it's time, like E40, the rapper. E40 doesn't hardly make music anymore. He still does, but E40 invests in his own brands of cognac and wine, his brands. That's what Trey and Matt are doing. They're in the mogul stage of their careers.
It is dangerous for those two. I'm being facetious, but like in terms of like vindictiveness, it is dangerous for those two. If you've seen how hard they go on some celebrities for multiple episodes, it is dangerous to be a celebrity and those two having FU money. So, yeah, dude, it's gonna, I need to catch up on some South Park, man. So gonna be good.
That's what this has made me do. But at any rate, that's our show today. Joe will be back next week. We're reviewing Candyman next week. We'll be talking that movie. I got to watch the original. I'm going to be a little bit late seeing this new one because I do have to watch the original. That's our show. Appreciate your patience at the end of the day with my personal tragedy, but grateful for the viewership. I'm going to I got a backlog of Sleepless editing that I'm going to catch up on Friday. So I'm kind of looking forward to doing that. Just trying to, as I said earlier, get back in the rhythms of life, as I put it. But Dominic, grateful for you being here. Glad you're healthy. Glad you're doing well. Joe, touch base with him. He's doing pretty good as well. We'll see you all back here next week for Candyman. And Dom, thanks once again for manning the boards, doing what you do, brother. You're an indispensable part of not only Sleepless with Steve, but my life as well. And I'm grateful for you. Same goes for Joe as well. So that's our show. We'll be back next week with a review of Candyman, highlights posted right here on my YouTube channel and also at stevepulaski.com. Check it out. Brand new website, just barely 2 months old. 2 months as of today, 2 months old. How about that? Check out stevepulaski.com, my YouTube channel for highlights. In the meantime, catch you next Wednesday, same time, same place. This has been Sleepless with Steve.